Hello, welcome, guys. I can't believe that we are already on day 4. Whew, time has been speeding by, to say the least. It has been speeding by. Hello, welcome to those of you guys who have been waiting. Sorry, had some tech difficulties. I had to start a bunch of times and all that, but I'm excited to have you guys on. So for those of you guys who are on live, do me a favor, drop in the chat where you're tuning in from. If you're watching the replay, do the same. Drop where you're tuning in from, and I can't wait to chat with you and continue the conversation in the comments, right? Because whether you're live or not, we want to make sure that you're getting this content. So for those of you guys who are new here, hello, my name is Faye Shalat. I'm the owner of Statuesque Events. We are an event planning company servicing corporations and couples all across the United States. We've done conferences, we've done weddings, we've done retreats, all of that, and we love it all. And we're really, and in addition to doing that, I also am a coach to creative entrepreneurs. I've worked with podcasters, I've worked with event planners, I've worked with florists, stylists, different people to grow a more profitable business that is streamlined, where you can get a lot done in less time, helping people go full time, build 6-figure businesses. All of that is what I do. And I'm really excited about doing that. Now, today we are on day 4 of a 4-day series. All right. So if you're hopping in on here, there's a lot to catch up on on days 1, 2, and 3, which I'm building on today. But this is the revenue reset, right? We're resetting for the new year, resetting, thinking through things as we plan for the upcoming year. At the time of this recording, we're preparing for 2025. So we're looking back on 2024, and we're really working through our mindset, our strategies, and our structures to make sure that next year is a much better year for us. Whether you had a good year or a bad year, we want to make sure next year is even better. All right. So on day 1, I talked a lot about mindset work, the mindset that's holding you back, that's keeping you from either making 6 figures or breaking past like 100 grand, right, in your business. On day 2, we talked about a CEO schedule, what it looks like to have a schedule, whether you're a part-time business owner or full-time, doesn't matter. You still need to have a solid schedule to make sure you're getting the work done that you need to get done. Yesterday, we talked a lot about make sure you're paying yourself. So we talked about profit simplified. What is profit? It is different from paying yourself, right? Make sure you have profit savings, what that looks like, right? What percentage of each of your sales you should be paying yourself, and just how that whole thing goes, right? So we broke that down, particularly for people with businesses making under $250,000 a year. That would apply to you. Now, if you're making over that, some of the numbers change a bit, particularly the numbers about the percentage to pay yourself and some other things. But to simplify, I started with businesses making under $250,000 so that you understand. So that's where we are today. And today we're talking about 6-figure sales that are not sleazy. I want you to know that making a lot of money doesn't have to feel weird. It doesn't have to feel bad. It shouldn't feel sleazy to you or to the person listening to you. Right? So for you to sell at 6-figure rates, it should feel good. You should feel good. You should not be nervous. You should not be afraid. You should not feel like you are ripping someone off, right? Because you should be bringing quality work. If you're bringing quality work, and number 2, you understand your numbers. Part of what we talked about yesterday, you understand why you need to make a certain amount of money, right? You understand why each project is valued at this much. You understand why you need to make this much in a year. And you understand that, okay, this is what I need to run this business that will allow me to continue serving people. Then you understand your numbers. You understand the value that you're bringing. So you shouldn't feel sleazy or weird about it, right? Now, if you skip the lessons before this, you want to go back to those to make sure that you get that feeling out of you, right? And understanding your own numbers. Charging $10,000 as an event planner is not a crazy amount of money. I want you to know there's DJs who charge more than that, right? To DJ one event for maybe 6 hours. They charge that, right? So I want you to know that if you are planning someone's event for 12 months, right, that's not a crazy amount. If you're a floral designer and you're like providing all these materials, right, materials are coming out of what you're paying yourself. 10,000 is not a crazy amount. 5 figures is not a crazy amount, almost regardless of what you do, right? Definitely not 5,000. Definitely not 8,000, right? And so you have to understand your own numbers, understand where you're going, understand how much effort you're putting in for you to really feel that value, and for you to not feel like you're doing something sleazy by selling high end. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, I want to talk about 6-figure sales that aren't sleazy meaning that the person you're talking to doesn't feel like you're being sleazy. So which was the core of what I wanted to talk about today, but I figured I should start with making sure that you feel good about your pricing, right? The truth of the matter is that if you don't feel good about your pricing, it's going to translate. If I was to say, hey, my event planning services is $10,000, me saying it like that, there's no emotion. Like I'm just matter of fact, like you can choose to go with it. You don't have to, it's okay. Right. But it's something else if I'm like, hey, I just really, well, it's, I mean, honestly, it's a lot of work. So, I mean, but anyway, it's $10,000. You can tell that I'm nervous, that there's something there that isn't right. Either I'm lying or I don't feel confident in it, or I don't even feel like what I'm doing is valued at what I'm charging. Either way, bringing that negative and unsure energy doesn't really help. Right. The stuttering, all of a sudden feeling something caught in your throat, on all of that, those are all signs that you're not settled in your own pricing, right? So you want to make sure you're settled in that before you move forward. You ain't got to raise your rates to 10,000 right now. Just because you heard someone say it is usually is not a good sign for you to just raise your rates there, because you're going to be nervous yourself. Um, yeah, you're gonna be nervous yourself, right? You got to make sure you understand that you have the right things behind it, and you're like, yeah, this is an excellent service, and anybody who buys this for whatever 5,000, 10,000 would be lucky to have it. So, let's talk about what it looks like to sell something with it not being sleazy. Whenever I think of sleazy sales, I think of a car salesman. I think most people do, right? You think of car salesmen, used car salesmen specifically, and a lot of people feel like used car salesmen are just trying to sell you something that they know is junk. Um, Transparently, I have to say I've never purchased a used car. I'm the type to buy a new car and use it for a long time. That's just more my speed. It's more what I prefer. But if you've ever gone to a used car shop, like the feeling. I've gone with other people, and where it's kind of like someone's telling you something, you're almost like never believing what they tell you. Like you're looking for signs that something is wrong, right? So I want to talk about some of the things that are a giveaway where someone would say that feels sleazy. And most of these kind of are related to the same thing. The number one thing being that you have to make the whole sales process about the client, not about you. When you make the whole sales process about you, red flags go up. People may not be able to describe why they feel that way, but it's because you made it more about you than you made it about them, right? At each stage of the sales process. If you can focus on making it about the other person, then it works. If you're like, hey, if I walk into a used car sales shop and I say, hey, hi, how are you? I'm looking for a car. And they start asking me questions. Hey, do you have children? Do you have well, specifically, do you have young children? How many people do you normally have in your car on average? Okay. Do you commute to work? Do you commute far, or do you work from home? Okay. Do you see yourself driving this car for more than 5 years, or is this more like an intermediate? And the person asks you questions, and then they say, hey, based off of everything you told me, I really think this minivan right here could be great for you. It only has this many miles, has this many seats in it, has all these cup holders that you can install, TV for your young children, and they're addressing the things that you said. It doesn't feel so sleazy anymore, right? Because they're not just trying to sell you something. But if you walk into a used car place and you're like, hey, I'm looking for a car, and someone's like, hey, yeah, this car right here would be perfect. Yeah, we like it. Yeah, just go ahead and buy it. No refunds though. But yeah, just buy it, and you be good. It's only $1,000, no refund. Yeah, buy it. You already are like your guard's gone up, because the only thing they're talking about is the fact that they want you to buy it real quick and you can't bring it back, right? So I want to break this down a little bit more in detail for you to understand which one of these one of these categories you fall in. So number one, you want to make sure on your sales call, you want to make sure that you're asking questions of the person who came your way, your consultation, sales call, whatever you want to call it, and that you address at least some of them during the call, right? Don't just ask a bunch of questions and say, oh yeah, that sounds good, and move on, or oh yeah, I get that, and move on. Address them. Because not only it shows that you were listening, it shows that you care. And honestly, if you address some of the questions, it shows that or concerns, they may not ask you questions, but you ask them questions, they give you an answer, and you address whatever the concern is, or tell them that you have experience doing the thing that they said they wanted to do. It shows your experience. It shows you're listening, and it shows that you're experienced. Right? Sometimes a lot of us don't want to show our experience until after people have paid us the invoice. And then how are you going to get the sale? Like, people are having a call with you to evaluate whether or not you're the right one for them. right? So you got to show them that you're the right one for them. I'm not saying give everything away, but at a certain point, you got to show. I mean, even here, most people who have ever joined a coaching program with me did it because they listened to the podcast, they listened to something here on YouTube, they've seen me go live on Instagram back when I used to go live all the time. It's seeing value given for free, right? That makes you be like, oh, you know what? I think I need this girl in my corner. I think she could help me, right? I really think they could do good work. Or event planning clients, they're like, oh yeah, I've seen blog posts of your work, or I've seen your work in person, or I've seen a lot of your posts on Instagram, and I can see that it resonates with me, right? And so showing value is what made them buy. So you don't stop doing that in the sales process. You keep doing that to get the person to go from like interested. I think the sales process, simply put, if I was to describe the difference between marketing and sales, marketing is getting someone interested in you. They may not only be interested in you, but at least you're one of the people they're interested in. And then the sales process is to get them to go from being interested to now buying, right? And part of that is with you continuing to show value to get them to really relate with you and feel like, this is the best person for me, right? And so a lot of that still comes from sharing value in the sales process, answering questions, addressing things. If someone says, hey, oh yeah, I love, I'm really excited about my wedding. The one thing I'm concerned about is the fact that, one of my parents is not really that mobile. So, I know they want to participate in everything, but it's not really that easy for them to like get around without a cane or to get around without a wheelchair. And so then you can say, oh yeah, no, I've done that before. It's common where we've worked on events and we try to make sure it's nice and accessible. There's lots of space for a wheelchair, and wherever possible, trying to go with a space where everything is on one floor, right? So you either just take the elevator up on time and you're where you need to be, or, even if there has to be an elevator, that there's plenty of elevator space to make it easy for them to get between the spaces that they're going. Now the person's like, whoa, they were really listening. And I never thought about it that way, that it doesn't have to be hard, right? Just because I have someone who has accessibility needs, or who, maybe needs a little bit more time to get around, or it can even be something as simple as, hey, like, and this is a real example. I've had a client where her father had surgery, and it was actually, I believe it was actually an amputation, right? But he spent months practicing to walk her down the aisle, right? And it was amazing when it happened. But letting people know, hey, we're not rushing. You take your time going down the aisle. You got 2 minutes, and to make a 30-minute walk. Like, we're all going to be waiting. We're all going to be cheering. We're all going to be exciting. Make the person feel comfortable about whatever it is that they've shared with you, to show your expertise and to help them to see that it's possible with you, right? So that's one thing that you want to do. During calls, you want to ask them questions to pull information out of them, and then you want to address at least some of them. Don't ask questions and just say, oh yeah, that sounds good, and move on to another question, right? Address at least some of them, right? Then the next thing is when you're following up, right? Just sending emails saying, hey, are you still interested? Just following up. Again, that's more of a self-serving question. You just want to know if they're going to buy. You just want to know if they're going to book. But instead, you can ask questions in a way, you should ask yourself, how is it going to benefit them if they book now versus waiting 6 months? How is it going to benefit them to book a DJ 6 months in advance? How's it going to benefit them to book even a day of coordinator 6 months in advance? Why does it matter, right? Maybe it's, hey, like, we book up really quickly, and I would love for you to I would love to lock you in so that we could start working on your event. I would love to offer you this free guide or whatever to help you with the rest of your process. So if you book sooner, you get that sooner. There's different things that you can do. Maybe booking a DJ early. Hey, like, we could start working on your songs earlier, which makes it easier with planning your day. Whatever it is, like, you got to give them a reason. For me, particularly when I'm dealing with people who are over a year out, I let them know that, hey, you are early now. Now you are early. Like, I want to take advantage of this time versus just waiting until you're now like rushing against the gun. This is the time to take advantage of more availability at venues, more availability, photography, etc. So I would love to get started soon so we can take advantage of the fact that you're ahead of schedule. Like, those are the sorts of things that you want to say. Make it about them at every touch point. That's how you sell at a high level without it being salesy. Because not only are you making it about them, you're helping them to see that you're thinking about them and you're thinking about how you're going to move them forward and you're thinking about how you're going to make the experience great for them. So that it's easy for them to be like, okay, I can trust this person to guide me through the process. I can trust this person to do what I need them to do. And yeah, it's valuable. Yeah, this person may be a little bit more than the other people I'm considering, but it's valuable because they're showing leadership and they're showing all the things that they're going to bring to my event, right? If this is resonating with you, drop it in the chat. Let me know, right? So number one, if it's resonating with you, just say that resonates. That's all you got to say in the chat, or that works in the chat, right? So number one, we talked about your consultation or your sales call. Ask them questions to pull information out of them and address the things that they bring up to show that you're thinking about them and to make the sale about them. Number two, when you're following up, don't just say, hey, you ready to pay? You going with me or not? Hey, I'm, no longer available. Someone else inquired on your date. I mean, that's like in between, but it shouldn't just be about, hey, are you paying me or not? You don't want it to feel like, are you just paying me or not? Right? That's not a good sales tactic. It actually kind of feels, honestly, it feels a little desperate, and it feels like, oh, okay, this person just needs a deposit real quick, right? You don't want to come off that way. You want to come off as an expert, and you want to come off as someone who wants to help them, not someone who just needs their money, right? So that's something that you really, really, really need. So then the last thing I wanted to talk about is we want to go into this is a term I just came up with this week, but safe deposit culture. That's the best way I could describe it. Safe deposit culture. People don't want to feel like they're spending money and it's not safe with you, right? So I would say you want to charge a reasonable deposit amount. And not only is this helpful for closing sales, it's also honestly helpful for in case you ever get sued or someone like wants a refund or for any reason wants to end the agreement. I'm not a huge fan of 50% deposits unless the event is coming up really soon, right? So with corporate events, it's a totally different story. With corporate events that tend to pop up with a few weeks' notice. But when someone's booking you a year out, why do you need a 50% deposit right now? Right? And then what happens if that event gets canceled? You can't just say that 50% deposit is not refundable. There is precedent of, I believe, a court case where someone tried to say, oh, well, my contract says it's non-refundable. And it's like, you didn't do 50% of work. Like, we can definitely argue that you did not do 50% of work. So you got to give some of it back, right? So there's that. But more importantly, when we go to the angle of sales and making the sale easy, don't forget that particularly, again, most of us who are on this chat are focused on the events industry. And even if we're not, everybody has so many other expenses. Like if I took 50% of my fee as an event planner, it's going to be a little hard. It may take me longer before I can get that client to book a photographer or book someone else because all their money's tied up, right? So if the deposit is low, it's a lower commitment which makes it easier because there's so many other things to pay for for the project, right? So safe deposit culture, it's okay if your deposits are non-refundable. That is okay. But then let it also be a realistic amount, maybe 20%, 25%, right? Versus 50 versus 70% upfront, and you pay me a little bit later, right? Let it like kind of match with the amount of work that you're doing. And then the other thing that goes with safe deposit culture is address people's concerns before they make a payment. If someone says, hey, I just wanted to make sure, will you be able to do X or Y? Give an answer. Don't say, oh yeah, just pay. Oh yeah, don't worry. Like that feels like, wait, you don't want to answer my question about what I'm getting. You just want to get the money. And then after I pay, you're going to tell me I can't have it. Like for someone who's a savvy buyer, which most people who are your ideal clients are savvy buyers. Like, they look at stuff, they read contracts, they pay attention to things. They're not going to like that. And even if you do amazing work, they may choose to go another way because they're like, I don't want to deal with anything that feels sketchy. So you want to make sure that you look at your deposits, you look at your what are you requiring to move forward, and make sure that it makes sense, that it feels safe. Would it feel safe for you to do that, right? Now, again, if someone's booking you to DJ an event in 2 weeks, maybe not a 25% deposit isn't realistic, right? You probably actually need it all. within the next week, right? So it clears in your account before the event happens. But particularly if you're talking way in advance and before much work has been done, smaller deposits are always a great way to go. It makes it so much easier in a lot of different scenarios. If the event gets canceled, if something changes, it just makes it easier for everyone. And again, if you're managing your money the way we talked about yesterday, you shouldn't be so under the gun to get another deposit anyway, right? Because you've kind of planned ahead and you spaced it out. So it's okay to take a smaller, maybe more reasonable deposit now in exchange for booking more business, which sets you up more for the future to make sure that you have those deposits hitting and more coming in. All right. So the 3 points that help you to sell high end, right, without being sleazy is number one, make the sales call more about them than it is about you. Addressing things. Make sure when they leave, they're like, oh, I feel so much better now. Like people say that all the time. Oh, I feel so much better after talking to you. That's the feeling we want when they leave, right? Number two, when you're following up, tell them, instead of just saying, are you booking now? Give them reasons that on how it's going to benefit them to move forward, right? Focus on the benefits for them, not just yourself. And the third thing, make sure that you have safe deposit culture. So look at your own, how much you're charging people and what you're requiring to move forward. Make sure it makes sense and that it feels safe to you, right? If you're requiring a 25% deposit, that's great. I will say for services that are a lot less, like makeup or hair, especially if you're like, oh, I'm charging somebody $300 to do their makeup or $500 to do their makeup. Okay, in that case, a 50% deposit doesn't hurt too much, particularly if it's closer to the event date. But when you're charging thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, smaller deposits help a whole lot, right? Because it makes it easier for someone to say yes now versus saying, oh, I got to save the money. I got to do this. Oh, I got to think about it. It helps the person to move forward more quickly. And again, people are paying for so many things when it comes to an event at the same time. So spacing it out helps a lot. Now, for those of you guys who are on the live, hello, hello, hello. Don't forget, let me know in the chat. You can let me know either of these. If this resonated with you, if you have a question, okay, if you have a question, I'd be happy to answer it. So again, whether you're watching live or on the replay, drop your questions, leave them in the chat. If you just want to share some appreciation, if you're like, listen, I really have just loved this series, let me know in the chat too, because I always like to know like how this is impacting you. And then if there's any other topics that you'd like to hear, leave all those in the chat, right? As usual in the description, we have links of how you can join our community, our email list. I'm really excited about some of our new coaching offers that are coming out, some that are more affordable, some that are easier for different levels. I'm really, really, really excited. So make sure that you are staying tuned because we'll be making a pretty big announcement soon. But before that, I wanted to make sure I shared what was on my heart. It's the beginning of December. It's the first week of December. I wanted us to start off strong with some free content to help us really think through the next level and the next steps for our business here. So I'm really hoping that we did that. I also want to say thanks to Sky. I know you shared this earlier, but I really appreciate it saying, thanks so much for the information. I appreciate you breaking down how to budget for your business money. It's helped me so, so much. So I love that. And I think this is really important, right? As a business, you gotta make money. You gotta manage the money that comes in. And so that's really, really important. Okay, I see I have one question. What planning tools or websites do you use? I know you mentioned HoneyBook, but are there any other planning tools or website that you would suggest? I think it depends on your industry. It depends on exactly what you're doing. So again, this video is for all kinds of vendors. As an event planner, I recommend Aisle Planner. So I use Aisle Planner and I use HoneyBook. So I see events. Okay, so what do you do in events? Is it planning? Is it floral? Is it photography? Is it right? So it depends on what you're doing. But I love Aisle Planner. There's not a lot that I think comes close, honestly, to what Aisle Planner offers. So Aisle Planner all the way. So I recommend Aisle Planner and HoneyBook, or if you're like, oh, I'm only ready to invest in one tool right now, it actually would be Aisle Planner that I would recommend. So I will drop a link. I do actually have a referral link that I can drop shortly. Actually, I'm just going to do it now. I'm going to go look for it now. So yeah, and so I can send that your way so that you can sign up. The reason I want you to use the referral link is because you get some pretty cool perks. Like you get a discount on your first 3 months of your paid membership plus a free trial. Like I just think you should use it. I think you should use it. So yeah, let's see. Any other questions? I'd be happy to answer. Any other questions? All right. All right. Well, here is the Aisle Planner referral code. It looks like there's no other questions. I'm glad you guys have enjoyed this series. If questions come up later, come back, drop them here in the comments. I would be happy to answer them for you. But yeah, like I'm really excited to chat with you guys, to learn a little bit more about what's going on in your businesses. I'll also update the description with the updated Owl Planner referral since that came up in this as well. And I look forward to connecting with all of you guys soon. Cheers to starting December off strong, ending the year strong. And I can't wait to see the results of it, right, when we get into 2025, the results of all the planning and the work and the strategizing and mindset work and everything that you've done. So again, if you're watching this and you skipped any of the other parts, part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, go back and watch it. Or if you don't remember what we talked about, go back and watch it again. I'm promising you this is really good information for anyone who actually implements it, right? I want to say, to grow, sometimes you got to slow down and focus on these fundamentals. A lot of times you're like, well, I just want to know, what do I post on Instagram tomorrow? What do I no. You got to focus on the fundamentals. That's what brings the big growth. And these aren't like basics like fundamentals, but it's more how to grow sustainably, right? And how to think about your business in a bigger way. So I'm really excited for all of you guys, and I can't wait to connect with everybody soon. All right. So cheers. Enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, more is coming to YouTube. So stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe. Share this with a friend, and I can't wait to see you in a future video. All right. Cheers.